or they'd like to delay processes like this. I mean, in relation to the US, Australia, etc. I mean, is the Sri Lankan government behaving in any different way?
I think each member of us and the three of us also has had many experiences of human rights violation cases in other parts of the world. I myself was special rapporteur for Myanmar, for example. So Nigel has been also involved in the international monitoring activities in many countries. Justice Bhagwati the same, and others too. We found that each country has its own unique aspect to each case. And it is very difficult to compare one country and another. And we cannot generalize the Sri Lankan situation compared with country A, country B, country C. It will be misleading because each country has different history, culture, religious backgrounds, racial construction, from the nature of the dispute and all those things. So although your question is a natural question to be raised, it is very difficult for us to respond to your question.
So in that context, is the idea of international norm, I mean, can you actually have an international norm?
Yes, but international norms have developed through the experience that each of us and others, many others, have gone through in the process of finding out what are the human rights situations in each specific case. And we came gradually to a kind of consensus understanding that if an independent commission of inquiry is established, they should follow this kind of norms and standards. And that is what we have applied. This is not the result of a dealing with a particular country, one country, but it's a kind of overall experience that the international community has developed over the past 30, 40 years. So we look at the Sri Lankan situation as it is, and we try to understand the Sri Lankan situation as it is, and compare that with the international standards that we have developed through the experience and so on. And the conclusions and recommendations that you find in the public statement, the sixth last one, are the reflections of this comparison. So instead of comparing Sri Lanka with another country which has serious human rights violations, it's better to compare to the international norms and standards that we have come up with as a result of many cases that we have dealt with in the international community. This is the answer I can give to your question.
There are certain basic standards and norms which have evolved over the years as a result of international practice, law and practice. And it is with reference to those norms and standards that we have got to judge the performance of each state. And that is what we are trying to do. It's not possible to compare performance of one state with another because the situations are different. The Sri Lankan situation is totally different from the situation which may find in any other state. Therefore, comparison is not going to help. But the assessment has got to be made with reference to the basic standards and norms which have evolved over the years.
And there are two aspects to the question, each of which I'll do extremely briefly, given that we have run out of time now. One is, do other governments behave this way in this kind of situation? The answer is some do and some don't. And sometimes in the same country, it'll vary according to how the situation is seen and the political dispensation in the state at the time. It varies. It may be that sometimes the politics are such that giving rise to some sort of nationalist fervour is more important than taking account of the international community. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes there's an awareness that international involvement can help. Sometimes there isn't. other issue is the more general issue I think you had in mind. How can you have norms if you don't have machinery there that's capable of doing something about applying the norms? And that's a really interesting and difficult question, but we are at the stage of international legal development that does not give the international community the right to go into states, whatever's going on, without the permission of the state itself, except under very, very narrow conditions where the Security Council may make certain determinations. But as far as ordinary monitoring is concerned, there is no possibility of coercive monitoring without the Security Council having other forms of coercive intervention going with it.
But in that context, it's a double standard that the Sri Lankan government